Welcome to the deep dive. We've been looking through some really interesting material you sent over articles, forum chats about language learning and connecting with people in English. And one thing kept popping up, didn't it?
It really did. Hobbies.
Exactly. How to talk about our hobbies. Something so personal, but everyone has them. And for you, listening, someone who's clearly keen on, learning and connecting, getting this right in English, feels pretty important.
Absolutely. And that's our mission for this deep dive. We're not just going to throw a vocabulary list at you.
Right.
We want to give you the tools, the actual phrases, and maybe the confidence boost.
Yeah.
To talk about what you love doing naturally in a way that really clicks with people. Think of it as like a shortcut to sharing a real piece of yourself.
I like that. A shortcut to sharing yourself. Because hobbies, they're not just about killing time, are they?
Not at all.
They bring joy. They help us relax. Honestly, they make us more interesting people to talk to.
Definitely. Sharing your hobby is like opening a little window into who you are.
So, okay. The sources we looked at often started by defining hobbies. What actually is a hobby? And why is talking about them such a big deal for, connecting?
Well, fundamentally, a hobby is just something you do regularly, in your own time, because you enjoy it. Simple as that.
Right, for fun.
For fun. But the significance, particularly when you're navigating a new language like English, is huge. It's about finding common ground.
Ah, okay.
When you share something you're passionate about, it kind of cuts through the language barrier sometimes. It's not just grammar practice. It's a real connection.
That makes a lot of sense. And the material, it definitely highlighted some very common types of hobbies. We saw things grouped together, like sports and fitness.
Yeah, football, swimming, yoga, that sort of thing.
And then creative stuff, painting, photography, writing stories. It's amazing how universal those are.
It is, isn't it? And then you had entertainment movies, music, video games, learning new things.
Like languages or coding.
Right. Exactly. And outdoor activities, hiking, gardening, fishing, plus the more social ones like volunteering or maybe dance classes.
It covers a lot. From quiet things like reading, which came up to really active stuff. It probably makes you think, where do my interests fit in all that?
Definitely a good starting point for reflection. And when it comes to actually talking about these, the sources really hammered home starting with those core verbs.
The basics, yeah. Like enjoy, love, like prefer, how you feel about it.
Right. But also verbs that show you actually do it, spend time doing, or being passionate about, or maybe being into something.
Oh, yeah, into. That's a good one.
It really is. And these words let you show different levels of interest, don't they? Instead of just, I play guitar.
You could say.
I'm really passionate about playing blues guitar. See? Much more specific. Or maybe, I enjoy spending my weekends hiking in the hills. Paints a clearer picture.
It does. It gives context. So those basic sentence structures we saw are really useful starting blocks. Things like, in my free time, I enjoy.
Or, I usually spend time
doing X, and one of my hobbies is.
Or, I'm passionate about. These are great templates. You listening should maybe jot these down.
Good idea. Because the next step, and this is where it gets really conversational, is adding the details, right?
Exactly. This is where you stop just stating a fact and start painting that picture we talked about, making it real for the listener.
Okay, so take an example from the sources. Instead of just, I like cooking.
Yeah, pretty plain.
You could say, in my free time, I enjoy cooking different dishes from around the world. My favorite cuisine is probably Italian.
See, now I'm interested. Different dishes, around the world, Italian. Lots to grab onto there.
Or if you paint, instead of, I paint a lot.
Maybe. I spend a lot of time painting because it really helps me relax and sort of express my feelings. Now we know why.
The why is huge. Another one. One of my biggest passions is traveling. Okay, nice, but...
You could add, I love exploring new cultures and meeting new people. Again, the reasons, the specifics, that's what makes it engaging.
So for you listening, think about your own hobbies now. What are those little details? When do you do it? Where? Why? Who with? That's the stuff that adds color.
Absolutely. And it's not just about sounding interesting. It actually gives people something to respond to. It opens the door for follow-up questions, turning into a real conversation.
Like that little dialogue snippet we saw between Sarah and Mark?
Yeah, from that forum discussion, Sarah just asks Mark what he does in his free time. Pretty standard question.
And Mark says something like, well, I love playing the guitar. Been teaching myself for a couple of years now. He adds that extra bit.
He does, not just, I play guitar, and Sarah immediately picks up on it, asking, oh, cool, what kind of guitar? She's genuinely curious.
And then he talks about his acoustic, wanting an electric. It's simple, but it flows because they're sharing and asking about those little details.
That's the key. Showing interest, building on what's said. Now, speaking of natural flow, the sources also mention some more casual, idiomatic expressions people use.
The native speaker phrases. These can be really good to sprinkle in.
Definitely. Like saying I'm hooked on something.
Instead of just, I really like.
Yeah. Like, I'm totally hooked on that new sci-fi series. It just sounds more intense, more natural sometimes.
Okay, I like that. What else?
How about, I can't live without...
Big dramatic maybe, but effective.
Yeah, like, I can't live without my weekend bike rides. Seriously.
Exactly. Or explaining the purpose of the hobby with, it's my way to unwind.
Nice. Gardening is my way to unwind after a crazy week at work.
Perfect. And for something new you've started. I've recently gotten into...
Sawn pottery or whatever it is. I've recently got into baking sourdough bread. It's harder than it looks.
It usually is, but yeah, using phrases like these can make your English sound, well, less like textbook English.
More like how people actually talk, which is the goal, right?
Absolutely. Now, on the flip side, the sources also pointed out some common slip-ups, mistakes learners often make. Knowing these can help you avoid them.
Okay, good to cover. What came up frequently?
A big one was the verb form after words like love, enjoy, hate.
The ing thing.
Exactly. You hear, I like to reading books, but it should be, I like reading books. Or, I enjoy watch movies. Should be, I enjoy watching movies.
Right, that gerund form, like plus verbing, love plus verbing.
Usually, yes.
Yeah.
Another classic mix-up is interesting versus interested.
Oh, yeah. I am interesting in photography.
When it should be, I am interested in photography. Remember, the hobby is interesting. You are interested.
Good distinction. Describes the thing versus describes your feeling.
Precisely. And one more common one. My hobby is play chess.
Instead of?
My hobby is playing chess. Again, that ing form often acts like a noun here, describing what the hobby is.
So that verb plus ing pattern is pretty important after verbs of liking, and when the hobby is the subject after is, worth remembering.
Definitely a key takeaway for grammatical accuracy. Now, shifting slightly, one article had a really nice personal story about how hobbies change. Oh, I remember that one. The author talked about drawing superheroes as a kid.
Yeah, drawing superheroes and animals. And how that childhood interest kind of evolved over time.
Into a passion for nature photography as an adult.
Right. And for different reasons now, more about stress relief, connecting with nature.
It's a great point, isn't it? Hobbies aren't static. What we loved doing at 10 might be different from what we love at 30. Or we might do the same thing, but for different reasons.
Makes you think about your own journey, doesn't it? Have your interests shifted? Why? What purpose do your hobbies serve now?
It's definitely worth pondering. And to help you, the listener, put all this into practice, we thought we'd pose a kind of speaking challenge.
Yeah, just some questions to get you thinking and hopefully speaking. Like, what are your main hobbies right now?
And how often do you actually get to do them? Be honest.
Yeah. And why do you love these particular activities? What do you get out of them?
Have you learned anything surprising or new through your hobbies? Sometimes that happens.
Oh, definitely. And looking forward, are there any new hobbies you're curious about? Anything you'd like to try?
And maybe, just maybe, try answering these out loud. Talk for a minute or two. You could even record yourself on your phone.
It sounds a bit strange, maybe, but it's incredibly useful for hearing yourself, checking pronunciation, fluency, how comfortable you sound talking about you.
Great practical tip. So I guess wrapping up, the main thing is your hobbies are a really valuable part of who you are. And being able to share that in English, it's just a fantastic way to, build those bridges we talked about.
Yeah, connect with people on a more personal level. So be proud of what you're passionate about.
Absolutely. Be brave. Try talking about them, even if it feels a bit clunky at first. Enjoy the learning process.
Because every single time you talk about your interests in English, you're doing more than just practicing words.
You're sharing a piece of yourself.
Yeah.
Your unique story.
Exactly. And maybe a final thought to leave you with.
Go on.
Just consider this. How might sharing your hobbies more openly in English actually lead to new conversations, maybe new friendships, or even opportunities you haven't even considered yet? Something to think about.